I'm with Rowan in his garden in north of Bendigo. What have we found in your backyard, Rowan? Just you're standing in amongst what looks like banana plants.
Yes. So we have a small microclimate, a small micro-tropical climate here in North Bendigo. So we've got a variety of bananas. I think there's at least 5 different cultivars of bananas here in the ground, also in pots, and we have a Paw Paw in there as well. So yes, it's very much a tropical fruit little area. Yes.
So what made you think you could grow tropical fruits in North Bendigo?
I suppose it came from growing a lot of tropicals in pots, and then just seeing how I could adapt it to specific areas of backyards in certain parts of Bendigo. So I've always wanted, because there is a huge difference between growing a plant in a pot, like pot culture, and then plants in the ground. So I've always been intrigued to see how different species of plants, tropical plants in particular, subtropical plants, would grow, whether they were in pots or in the ground, especially in Bendigo. So yes.
So what sort of crop have you got from your bananas?
Well, these are very young. Surprisingly, they're very young. This is only about 6 to 8 months growth of bananas. So they're usually in the tropics. They'll take about it could be anywhere between 9 to 18 months to fruit in the wet season, particularly. Here in Bendigo, we don't have a wet season. We don't have this specific climate, and we're also not in Melbourne as well. So it's an experiment really to see how new growth will flourish, and then how maturity will set in afterwards. Because a lot of the bananas that do fruit in Bendigo have been growing for at least 1 to sometimes even 4 years before they fruit. Whereas here we have 8 months of growth. They're at a stage where they could fruit, but they haven't. So we're just seeing what will happen with that. I believe the Pasong Ceylon at the very, very back may be getting ready to fruit, but a little bit too late at the moment. So we'll see what happens after winter.
So what happens when there's a frost?
Well, when there's a frost, it's basically there's a couple of measures to take. We're relying on the microclimate to begin with to protect them. Hence I don't know if you can see through the jungle there, but the fence is tin, and it goes in sort of on an angle there. So that was the idea, to create this little pocket of warmth. So frost is probably going to be reduced a little bit. Also, we are in an urban environment, so that will reduce the frost as well. We're not in Epsom, we're not in Huntley, we're not in Juniton, or dare I say Harcourt. And so we have that as well to help us along. But through the winter, these plants were probably about, the bananas at least, were probably about my height, if not a bit younger. And I was just putting hessian sacks over the top of them. Yeah, and that seemed to get them through. They look horrible in winter, and you think they're going to die, but if there's green in the stem, and there's no death in the pseudo stem, which is the new folded leaf that comes at the top, then you're in business. Yes.
Okay, so some are in the ground and some are in pots. So
yeah.
the ones that are in the ground,
yes.
What have you done to the soil?
Well, the soil, when we first arrived here, the soil was typical. It was a really, really badly maintained garden, actually. I dug the designated areas for each plant. I worked the soil, turned it over, so I broke it up. And then I applied compost, beneficial nutrient-based composts as well. And I just worked the soil for at least maybe a month. And then I was adding to it slowly, digging the hole according to the plant in its pot size, and preparing it for a long time, and then planting, and away you go. Yeah, yes, yeah. And that is the key to it, is just not digging a hole, putting the plant in, like at least working on it for, I don't know, from 2 weeks to 2 months to do it, depending on how dedicated you are. Yeah. A lot of the stuff we have around here is from seed. A Unfortunately, banana trees can't be grown from seed. Your fruiting varieties. The poor banana plant has been cultivated by humans for thousands and thousands of years to the point where it can't fend for itself anymore. So a lot of it's grown by tissue culture. So the bananas, no, but we do dig up a lot of the pups and reuse them. So I have. Sorry, I'll be back in frame. So this was a tiny pup. So that's a blue Java banana. So that's Musa acuminata, obviously, as with the others, but that's blue Java. So that comes from the parent tree over there. So yeah, we reuse the pups, and that's about as far as propagation of bananas go. But like a lot of the fruit trees that we have around here, or especially the seedlings, all grown from seed cuttings. We do grafting as well. Marcotting, there's a pomelo over there that I marcotted. So marcotting is essentially taking a branch like so. I don't know if you can see that. You remove the cambium layer from that branch, and you put some sort of propagation medium around it in a bag, and that will sprout roots from that area in that bag. So you're essentially creating a new seedling that's identical to the parent plant. And then you chop it at the end, and then you pot that up, and away you go. So we've got two kiwi fruits here. This one, actually, we'll start with this one. This is Inga edulis, so that's an ice cream bean. That's native to the swamps of the Amazon in South America, obviously. A really, really good plant to start with if you want to try and grow tropical / subtropical plants in a cold climate. Ice cream bean is really, really good. Really, really good choice for that. Very sensitive as young. Once you get established, yeah, it can grow fast. This is the kiwi fruit here. This is the chieftain male. So this is our main pollinator for the Hayward female. So this is the Hayward female here. Yeah, she's a good one. This is a Hayward improved actually. But the chieftain male is a good cultivar to pollinate the Hayward female. So if you can get a hold of a chieftain, then that's good. But otherwise, I think most male kiwis are pretty good at pollinating. You only need maybe one male kiwi to pollinate, I think 3 females or something. We'll put them in the ground. We're going to grow them on a trellis that's like an overhead trellis, because that's how they grow them commercially. So you basically walk through, and the kiwis hang from the top. So you walk along and you just grab them. I took the male flowers off and hand pollinated the female flowers with the male flowers, and that helped as well. But the bees love them as well. I wouldn't recommend growing kiwis in pots. They just need so much water. So they dry out the minute you turn your back and you haven't watered them for 2 days, especially in summer. We've got a coconut palm here. I'm not sure if it's in shot, sorry, but I'll just plant this one because that's basically what coconut looks like when it's grown from the nut. This was actually gifted to me when I was living up in North Queensland. This guy came up to me and said, "Look, I was going to eat this coconut, but it started to grow this little shoot." He's like, "So I see that you have all these plants around. Do you want it?" I was like, "Yeah, I'll have it." And so yeah, that's what it's turned into. So that's one of many coconut palms we have. That's just a wild coconut. There's a guava here, which are pretty available around Bendigo. That's a Hawaiian guava, so Psidium, so classic Psidium species. That's a good variety to similar to the ice cream bean that I mentioned earlier. With if you want to grow sort of sensitive tropicals in a cold climate, guavas, ice cream beans, good to start with. This is a white sapote. That's Casimaroa edulis. I grew this from seed. This is probably the best sapote. It's not a true sapote, but it's called a white sapote, so it's a very creamy white flesh, green fruit. Really easy to grow in Melbourne, probably in the same category as your guavas, ice cream beans. Really, really, really good to grow in a cold climate for something a little bit different. So next to me there's this is the soursop, not soursop, soursop guanabana, Anona muricata. So this is the this is a Cuban fibreless cultivar of this. So I'll just get the tag off to show you what the fruit kind of looks like. So it's a very green, spiky fruit with a lemonade tasting flesh in the middle. It's very similar to custard apple. So we use, because this is a large tree and we can't actually fit it in the greenhouse anymore, we use this microclimate to give it filtered sun and just acclimatise it a little bit. You'll be amazed how big trees will grow in a small pot. A lot of people, I think, get very paranoid about plants being pot bound, but in actuality, I've found that plants can grow quite big in pots. But these are 2 apple trees that we've selected for the Bendigo region. I'll just move that white spreading out of the way. So we have a tropic sweet and a tropical Anna, who both pollinate each other. These are a low chill apple, so we use these in Bendigo because we're not in Harcourt, so we can't really rely on the older varieties that just need extreme cold and frost, right? So we know we're probably not going to get as cold a winter, so we choose the cultivars that require less chill. The thing about frangipanis that people forget is that they are deciduous. So even in the tropics, they are deciduous. So not complete deciduous and not semi-deciduous. They just, I don't know, they just do their own thing where they'll just drop their leaves. So a lot of people panic when their frangipanis in cold climates start dropping their leaves. So they water and they feed and they do etc, etc. Don't do that. Keep your plumeria as dry as possible leading up to the cold months. Let it drop its leaves. It will turn into sticks, like just, sticks. It's not the correct terminology, but you know what I mean. As long as you have greenery in the stems, then you're on your way. Like, just don't overwater, because that will kill the frangipani, the plumeria. I said earlier, just wanting to see how things perform in the ground in Bendigo outside the tropics. Paw Paws, Carica papaya. It's a very, very good plant to grow in subtropical areas. So it's not strictly tropical. It is subtropical as well. So anything that is subtropical, and I'm talking about being able to go in Sydney up to Murwillumbah, Byron Bay, all that sort of area. Anything like that, you've probably got a chance with in Melbourne, maybe in Bendigo. So we thought we'd give this a go, and it has just taken off, really. It's got these beautiful palmately compound leaves, typical behaviour of a pawpaw. But interesting enough, it has fruited, and the bees went crazy for this. I don't know if it was just something to do with the fact that it was something completely new in their environment. Well, this is a very, very basic greenhouse that you can get from your major sort of hardware stores. It's good. It's a good start. I've been relying on this for summer growth for a couple of years, as well as taking plants inside in the winter, because this is basically where I put all my super sensitive tropicals, right? The ones that I don't want the winter elements to kill, because they ultimately will kill them. So I do not put them in the ground. Everything's grown in pots. The purpose of the greenhouse is to create humidity and high heat. And it doesn't have to be a fancy greenhouse. It's just the fact that a lot of these tropical plants they grow as understory plants, so we try and replicate that with this greenhouse. Mountain Kenya coffee, so it's a coffee tree. Coffee's really easy to grow. Just keep it out of the frost. Look, this was the first tropical plant that I ever grew. When I started getting into growing plants, I started with coffee because it's my favourite drink in the whole world. If someone was to say to me, you can only drink one thing for the rest of your life, I'd have to say it would be coffee. I'd be happy with that.